How millennials will be remembered in the future. And I want to put this out because I know I got hammered on this one video from millennials that I put out that said why millennials don't drive Jeeps. And I know some do. And, that's really kind of my point. It's a mixed bag. But I'm going to also tell you where to really watch out for. And I know maybe this is not a typical millennial thing. I know everybody today has got their heads in their devices, which I have a habit of doing too much too. And I'm going to get away from that. But the ones that are really going to remember the millennials and state what the millennials were about in the future is going to be the major media. And if you want to talk about total disinformation and liars, it's them all the way. Um, I know, like my generation is the baby boomers, right? I was born right smack in the middle of that back in the 50s. Now, um, the one thing I could tell you, a lot of stuff they say that happened in the 60s was like, I never even seen it happen. But let me just tell you, like, what are they going to tell you about um, that the millennials did? Like, okay, here we got the Confederate statue in North Carolina, right? In memory of the boys who wore the gray. That's all it was about, right? Who fought for the South, right? So, they tore down this. Well, let me say this. How many millennials did this, right? It's an infinitesimal percentage of the total millennials, right? But this is going to be the image that's going to be in the future. That's going to be propagandized by the major media. They're going to tell, and then you're going to see the generation after Generation Z, like which is comparing to me the Generation X to the millennials. It's going to say whatever Generation Z is going to be after Generation Z. I don't know what, this, I don't know what it would be, Planet Venus generation, but but it's going to be, they're going to be saying, oh, you millennials, that's all you did, and then they're going to be telling you, okay, Dylan Roof was a millennial or something like that. I don't know, something like along this line, because you could say, yeah, this guy was a millennial, right? But then at the same time, you had millennials fighting in Afghanistan, but then they'll bring out the stuff that Afghanistan was a war for drugs and protecting the oil interest, and you know what I mean, right? Just like they do today with knocking anything anybody did in the past. I mean, you can knock what the efforts are, the soldiers are today in the future. It's pretty piss poor because people aren't there, and they never did it. Um, you could do that with Vietnam veterans. You could do that with Korean War veterans. You could do that with anybody. You could do that in Confederate. Well, you know what happened. I think the last Confederate War veterans died off in the 1950s, and after that, it started slowly changing. So people weren't there to defend themselves as to what really happened. Um, but yeah, you could say that the media is going to ignore this part in the future. And I don't want to get too much in the militaristic side because this is another bunch of garbage. Because government is like, I swear to God, I don't have. It's like Well, let me put it this way: people that worship the military are bad news too. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay, I don't worship the military, but you are going through a lot of hardship a lot of times when you're in the military. Okay, I don't want to, I know it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's like I was in the military. It's like real easy at sometimes, and you get clobbered all at once. That's really what it is. But this is like how the major media portrays my generation, right? I can tell you right now, I never saw this crap happening. It was like I saw it more on the news than I ever saw it in real life. It was ridiculous. Nobody dressed like this. Basically, you might see. Well, you see this guy in the front. He's a little more dressed like a hippie. Um, you see other people aren't. You know, you didn't see this peace sign rally shit that much, but it made I never saw this stuff happening. Um, so let me just say that that's how they portray my generation. Everybody was a hippie. Everybody was. That was like, you got to be kidding me. But just a bunch of people sitting on their ass and going to college for free, smoking weed, and then becoming rich people, right? Very wealthy. That's total BS. But you know, that's how they're going to do this same thing with the millennial generation in the future, and you can blame the major media. That's why I'm really going scorched earth on the freaking major media. The hell with them. I know YouTube right now is being heavily influenced by the money advertisers. Like, and I know Soros's hands is in there, and probably Jeff Bezos or whatever the hell it is. But I'm gonna have another video on that. We're gonna go some scorched earth. But I'm gonna tell you right now for you. I know some of you millennials are a bunch of freaking whiners. You piss me off. Millennials, the me generation. I know the baby boomers are freaking jerks too because I don't like most of the baby boomers, even though I'm one of them. They're out there playing golf, doing nothing. Um, but I'm gonna have a lot more stuff on this channel, freaking doing some hands-on junk, and I'm gonna get on something more stuff with that four-wheel drive Jeep stuff that I put out before. Really, um, well, that's a separate subject, but I'll talk about that on a separate subject. I don't want to go too long on this, but just the point is on this is that millennials, even though no matter, I know this is even not even a good representation of millennials. I know everybody's in their device today. Don't matter if they're 80 years old or got their nose in a computer and a cell phone. But the ones who are going to tell the future generations what the millennials are about in this generation, it's going to be the corporations. That's what's sick about this garbage, and that's what's sick about how they're really channeling YouTube into a major media bunch of garbage. Because if it gets that way, I ain't gonna even watch none of the freaking YouTube videos myself. But in the future they'll tell you, oh, I don't know, maybe this is what the millennials did, or Dylan Roof's a millennial, and blah blah blah. And then 2 generations after the millennials will say, oh, look at you millennials, you're all screwed up. You either were a Dylan Roof yo-yo or you're freaking doing this. That's what they're going to tell you. That's how the major media is going to present it. Because that's how they present the boomer generation. They said, here, this is the boomer generation. This is all they did. Right? I freaking hate the major media. I really do. I hate them with a freaking passion. Bunch of scumbags. But anyway, that's my video. That's over and out. And, right now it's like, YouTube is getting really crazy. Well, I'm not even calling it YouTube anymore. I'm calling it Soros Tube. But hey, whatever. But this is for your information purposes only. And just remember, what I'm saying here. This is like true wisdom, man. But this is what I was trying to think of. What I wanted to say. If you really want to really catch what the boomer generation was about better, if you look at some of the videos, say like when they had these rock stars coming over from England or something, and they're interviewing the audience itself, and you look out in the audience, look how, I'm not talking about Woodstock because that was just like a freak thing for like a weekend. I'm talking about in the 60s. You look out in the audience, look how conservative they dressed, how conservative they acted. That was actually the boomer generation. That's really what it was, largely so. The media is lying to you about the boomer generation, too. The boomer generation was far more traditional than you would think. By far. But you want to know the proof. Look in the videos out in the audience of where, they show somebody in a black and white television show, and they're bringing out this group, these rock people, whatever the hell it is, from way back in the 60s. Look back out in the audience, and sometimes you'll see Dick Clark go out there and talk to people, or somebody will talk to people, or he'll show the audience. You get a good impression just how conservative it was all across the board back then. Those are the boomers. But nah, they'll tell you otherwise. That's why I say these guys are going to lie about the millennials too. That's why you got to go scorched earth on the major media. Period. Over and out. See you later.